They say if you put 10,000 hours of intense practice into anything, you can master it. You guys don't have 10,000 hours, that's why you're here. I've put the hours in over the last 2 decades, and I can teach you all the basic tips you need to know to get started in Madden to be unstoppable and win more games. Now, if you are new, make sure to subscribe and turn the bell icon on if you want to stay up to date with all the top Madden tips that I'll be releasing all year long following this video. The first thing you need to do above all else is figure out what your playstyle is. Before you even think about going online, you need to figure out how you are most comfortable playing this game to put yourself in the best position to succeed. The best way to do this is to go into some play now games against the computer, try out different teams, try out different playbooks, but most importantly, try out a bunch of different plays. Figure out what you're most comfortable doing. Do you feel that you're better at running than passing? Are you more balanced? Do you want to stay in shotgun mostly and then just mix in run plays here and there? You need to figure this out, and once you figure that out, then you can start looking at the teams that best suit your playstyle. So if you want to be a heavy passer, you would want to use teams like the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, the Seahawks, the Bills, the Browns, or even the Packers. If you want to be just an all-out run-heavy team, you could look at a team like the 49ers that are built to run the ball well. If you want to be a balanced guy, you can look at the Ravens, the Titans, or the Cowboys. If you find that you're better with mobile QBs, moving on the run, making throws on the run, and taking off when the defense gives it to you, you might want to look at teams like the Ravens, the Cardinals, the Bills, or the Seahawks. Now, if you absolutely have to play with your favorite team, I understand, but you have to also understand that if your favorite team is the Jets, it's going to be a lot harder to win games. But if you must play with your favorite team, you want to look at who their best players are, and you're going to be kind of forced into a play style if you must use that team, because you need to use the team to its strengths, or else you're going to be putting yourself at an even bigger disadvantage. Step 2, once you've figured out what teams you like, is you need to understand your personnel. What I mean by this is you want to look within the ratings. You don't want to look at their overall, you want to look at the individual ratings. A great example of this is wide receivers. Doesn't matter what their overall is, you want to look at their route running, for example. Some receivers have really high deep route running but aren't as good on the short and medium routes, so you want to make sure that you keep that receiver on your deep routes like post, crossing routes, and streaks. You have some wide receivers that excel at short route running, like a Cole Beasley, for example. You're going to want him in the slot on those slants, those in routes, and those whip routes, because he's going to have way higher short route running than he's going to have medium and deep route running. You want to make sure your players are in the right place to get the most out of them. Another example are your defensive backs. Some of your defensive backs are going to be higher man coverage, some are going to be higher zone coverage. So if you're looking at your team and you notice that you have more higher man coverage guys, then you're going to want to run more man defenses. And then vice versa, if you have more high zone coverage guys, you're going to want to run more zone. The other thing you need to be mindful of is the speed on your team. When you're looking at running backs, wide receivers, and even cornerbacks, don't worry about the overall all the time. If you've got a guy that's a low overall, but he's got 95 plus speed, you want to put him on your field somewhere because you can get something out of them. Speed kills in real life, and it does in Madden. If you've got a 95 speed wide receiver that's 70 overall, you can find a place for him on the field. Put him on a streak route, put him on a screen, use his speed in the open field to your advantage. And the last most important thing about your personnel is understand who has the abilities on your team. You can look through the ability chart on the main menu, and you want to know who has what. You're going to have some wide receivers, for example, that excel outside the numbers, so you want to make sure they're lined up outside the numbers. And then you're going to have some wide receivers maybe on your team that have slot abilities. Again, like Cole Beasley is a good example of this. You're going to want to keep him in the slot. And the same goes for all the players on your team. See what abilities they have, and that will allow you to put them in the best position to succeed. After we got that figured out, now you need to learn how to scheme. So this kind of goes back to your play style. When you figure out what your play style is, you're going to find some go-to plays, you're going to find some money plays. It's okay, don't let people shame you about it. Teams in real life all have their own go-to money plays. They have their bread and butter. You should have that in Madden as well. So whatever your go-to passing play or running play is, you want to make sure in that formation you find other plays that complement it. So if you have a really good go-to run that's like an off-tackle run to the right, you want to find a good run to the left, a good run up the middle, and a play action pass that can play off of that run, because now it makes it harder for the defense. If you're a shotgun guy and your best passing play attacks the right side of the field, you want to find a decent complementary play in that same formation that can attack the left side of the field. You want plays that can occupy the middle of the field so that you're keeping the defense on their heels. And even if you're a shotgun guy, you need to mix in the inside zone runs out of shotgun here or there to just keep the defense honest and not let them be able to just sit on your go-to play. It's also important to have those couple sneaky plays in your playbook. There might be one good play in a formation, but the rest of the plays just aren't that good. That's okay. You can use that sneaky play to your advantage. You can pull it out once or twice a game in a big situation, and your opponent's not going to expect it because you haven't run it before. Always good to have a couple aces up your sleeves for big moments. The next thing is super important, and I can't stress this enough: clock management. And this is something that even teams in real life struggle with a lot. It's something that separates the winners from the losers more than anything else, in my opinion. Madden, the main time you want to be aware of the clock is at the end of both halves, in the second quarter and in the fourth quarter. If you have the ball late in the second quarter, you want to try to milk out that half and not give your opponent any time to add points on before half. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're in a situation where you have a breakaway touchdown, you have a wide open guy for a touchdown, you take that every single time. You don't pass up points. But if you're just methodically driving down the field, you don't need to rush things. You don't need to call plays with a lot of time on the play clock. You want to make sure that you're grinding it down. And especially in the fourth quarter, if at any point in the fourth quarter, or really even the second half in general, if you have the lead with the ball, you should never be rushing. Again, if the touchdown is there, take it. But if you are leading in the second half, your goal should be to make drives last as long as possible. Because let's say you're up 7 points, and all you have to do at that point is put 3 on the board, and that means your opponent has to score twice. He has to score, stop you, and score again. So the less time he has to do that, the bigger advantage you have of winning the game. The next thing we need to talk about is what I like to call accident prevention. These are the things that you can avoid that can turn wins into losses very easily. The first on this list is managing your player fatigue. When you're at your play call screen, you'll notice that when your players are getting tired, they'll start getting yellow. And if they get extremely tired, they'll get red. You never want to have your player on the field when he's in the red. You want to sub him out, specifically if it's a running back, because if you give him the ball and he's in the red, or even if he's in the yellow, he has a higher chance of fumbling, and you don't want to give the ball back to your opponent. So you want to make sure that you're subbing out these players that are tired for players that have full fatigue, and then you can bring your starters back in a play or two later. If you're on current gen, you can sub them out with the R1 button or RB button at your play call screen. If you're on the next gen version, you can sub them out with the Y or triangle button. The next part of accident prevention is making sure to always slide with your QB. The QB fumbles more than any other position in this game. You never want to take hits. You don't even want to get tackled with your QB. You either get out of bounds or you slide. To slide, you tap the X or square button, and that ensures that you get down and do not take hits. This also applies to regular players as well. If you're in the open field and you're in a breakaway and you know you're coming up against a big hitter, it's probably best to go out of bounds or get down by tapping the X or square button. Just kind of give yourself up on the play, because if you take a hit stick after a long run, you have a high chance of fumbling. If you've got a big bruiser like Derrick Henry, yeah, you might want to try your luck and see if you can break the tackle. But if you have a smaller back, just get down. Don't take unnecessary hits from big hitters. You don't want to give the ball back to your opponent. Another crucial part of accident prevention is blocking your running back versus the blitz. If people are sending extra rushers at you, 9 times out of 10, you can completely negate this by just simply blocking your running back. You do this by pressing the Y or triangle button, selecting your running back icon, and then pressing the RT or R2 button. If they're sending 6 rushers at you and you don't block your running back, you're going to get sacked almost every play, or at the least, you're going to get hit. Blocking your running back now buys you time, and it allows you to stay ahead of the chains instead of getting sacked and losing yards. Another big part of accident prevention is monitoring the speed receivers on the other team. You don't want to leave Tyreek Hill one-on-one ever. You're just asking for a touchdown. You don't want to leave Henry Ruggs one-on-one. When you're playing against those type of teams, make sure you're keeping a guy over the top. You always want a safety over the top of those speed demons, because most cornerbacks in the game can't run with them, and if your opponent's going to score, you make him earn it. You don't let him throw a streak over the top. That's way too easy. And the last thing of accident prevention is spying mobile quarterbacks. Mobile QBs are always overpowered in Madden. They can take off and run for easy yards. You never want to let your opponent do this over and over, because you're making it too easy on him. You're giving him easy yards. Simply get on a fast linebacker or even a fast defensive end if need be. You can press the A or X button on this player, and then you want to take your right joystick and flick it to the left. That will put them in a QB spy, and this means he will spy the QB and not let him outrun him. He will stay with him the whole play and limit the yards or even hit him for no yards. The next thing we need to cover is user defending. It's the most scary thing for newer players, but it's absolutely critical to become decent at this if you want to get better at the game. You don't have to become a user god, but you have to at least be comfortable enough taking away one route on the play, because if not, your opponent will simply throw the same slant route over and over and over. So what you want to do is you want to get on a fast linebacker, or even a safety is good. If you can get a safety in this position, you're going to be golden, and you want to be able to sit on the money route that your opponent's throwing. If he's throwing the same slant every play, you simply want to just anticipate that slant and stay in front of it and run with it. If it's a crossing route that he's throwing every play, again, you want to just mirror that receiver. You don't have to be great. You just need to run with him to either make your opponent hold the ball longer and take a sack, or if he throws it, you can go for a swat or an interception. It's probably easier to go for a swat if you're more of a new player than an interception, but you just want to make it harder for him to throw that route. You don't want to give him the easy go-to route every play, because if you do, he's going to move the ball down the field all game. Being on your defensive line is going to put you at an extreme disadvantage in this game. You need to get comfortable being on a user linebacker or safety. You might give up some big plays in the beginning, but that's just part of the growing pains to becoming a decent player on defense. Another huge thing that gets gets overlooked is you want to learn from your opponents. If your opponent is hitting you with something that's good, there's nothing wrong with taking that and adding it into your arsenal. This happens all the time in the NFL. It's a copycat league. If someone's hitting you with a play and you just have no clue how to stop it, well, guess what? A lot of other people probably aren't going to know as well. So you can now take that. They did the work for you. You can go in practice mode, play around with it, and now add that to your arsenal. But also, something you want to learn from your opponents is how to stop those plays. If you run up on a play that you can't stop, it should now be your mission to go into practice mode with 2 controllers and try to make adjustments and figure out what can limit that play. Because if that is a good play, chances are you're going to run into it again, and next time you run into it, you want to be able to stop it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Below in the pinned comment, I will have a bunch of links to a bunch of resources that are going to be following this video about the best playbooks, best offense, best defense, to keep you up to date all year, to keep elevating your game. Make sure to subscribe if you're new. I'll see you next time.